So first of all, once again, I would love to extend heartfelt gratitude for joining us, ma'am. It is an honor to have you with us on the GIBS IRE Talks for this session.
Thank you so much.
And a very good evening to each one of you out there. A warm welcome to another exciting edition of GIBS IRE Talks, which is powered by the GIBS Business School, Bangalore, where innovation meets inspiration. I'm Professor Sandeep Bansali, your host for today's session. I'm truly thrilled to welcome you all to yet another impactful conversation in the IRA Talk series. And today's session is on the entrepreneurial mindset, which goes far beyond the models and pitch decks. It is about building the internal foundation to lead the courage, clarity, as well as the purpose. In the rapid evolving world, mindset isn't just important, it's everything. And today we are honored to have with us a thought leader and a change maker who brings a unique blend of strategies, soul, and self-mastery, Miss Divya Madhur. Let's start the journey going. And to all the students who have joined for the first time, about to speak about GIBS Business School Bangalore. GIBS Business School Bangalore is one of the premier institutions committed to shaping the future leaders, entrepreneurs, as well as the innovators. Consistently ranked as the top ranked B school by the reputed ranking bodies such as the Week, India Today, Times B School, and many more. GIBS stands as a trusted name for excellence in management education and known for its industry oriented AICT approved PGDM program, as well as the BBA program affiliated to Bangalore University, which is promoted by the IM alumni. And GIBS has been forefront in providing the world-class education, which sets a strong industry interface. And to speak a little bit about what IRE Talks is all about, so innovation, research, and entrepreneurship is our way of bringing the industry into the classroom. It's a platform where we get to hear the first-hand experiences from the visionaries, entrepreneurs, business leaders, as well as the change makers who are shaping these future. Through these conversations, we love to understand a lot of industry aspects. And to speak about our today's keynote speaker, I would say we are really very privileged to. I am rather privileged to introduce our keynote speaker for today, Ms. Divya Madhur, TEDx speaker, transformational coach, podcaster, and a passionate advocate for emotional as well as the mental well-being. She's also a founder of Divya Arc, where she empowers individuals through coaching on self-leadership, work-life harmony, and mindset transformation. With over 20 years of experience in brand strategy, marketing, and storytelling, having served as a council member of WICCI, Ms. Divya has also led impactful initiatives across edtech, wellness, social sectors. As a relationship coach and a spiritual healer, she also helps people heal emotional wounds, build meaningful relations, and rediscover the inner strength. I would say I'm glad to know that Ms. Divya is also have given a TEDx TED Talk. So on the topic how love shows us how to thrive, and her podcast, The Return of Love Story, continues to inspire many and embrace self-love. So I'm sorry I'm cutting down your profile, madam, but we would love to hear it personally from you. So before I hand it over to ma'am, any in case audience, in case if you have any doubts, any queries, please put it in the Q&A section. We will take it at the end of the session. So without waiting much more, so over to you, madam.
Thank you, Professor Bansali. That was good enough already.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Good evening, everyone, to whoever is tuned in and listening here, and probably anybody who may catch up on the recording later. While we talk about entrepreneurship, it may look like a really big word. It may look like, okay, now this is one of the jargons of the business world. But quite literally, it can boil down to something very simple on a day-to-day life. And I think that's where I would start with, because we're all entrepreneurs at heart, quite literally. And I think Indians per se are even more, because you would have heard the word called jugaad, because Indians are really like, tuned into finding solutions to difficult problems, and in the most economical and the easiest way that there is possible. So I think entrepreneurship kind of runs in the blood. I don't want to say that, but at the same time, it runs in the land. It runs in us as Indians for sure. And I don't mean to say any other nationalities don't, but at the same time, I'm also saying as a country, or as the nationals of this country, this is something that we've been living with. We've been using it every single day. It just rained here. I stay near the airport, right? Devanhari area. So I was wondering, I don't know if it's raining there or not, but imagine the number of people who are on the road right now trying to figure out how to get through this if they didn't have raincoats or, umbrellas and stuff. So there's little bit of this innovation happening every moment. And it doesn't need to be at a level which is, out of the world, or it doesn't have to be really recognized by somebody at a point to be called entrepreneurship, honestly. It's happening all the time in your lives here and now. So I think this is where I wanted to start with, to make sure that it's not like the big jargon of the business world. It is something we do every day, and that makes it much easier for us to go about it, in terms of even if we are doing this in our jobs, if we are doing it in our study life, if we are doing it in our business life, whichever way that may be. So I think I'll start with that thought, and I think I would like to start sharing my screen from here onwards.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, allow me a moment, please.
Sure.
Yes. Okay. I hope my screen is visible to everyone. Yeah. Is this visible to everybody? Perfect.
It's perfect.
All right. So now what we're discussing today is entrepreneurial mindset. Like I said, entrepreneurship is something that we do every day. And as far as mindset is concerned, is actually not just the mind, which we believe it's in the head here. It's actually the brain over here. It's not the mind. Mind is kind of throughout our body. It is the consciousness which is present in each and every cell that we have in our body. So, you would have those nudges and feelings that would happen in some part of your body. Let's say when you're fearful, you won't feel it in the head all the time, right? You might sometimes feel it in your heart area. You might sometimes feel it in your stomach area, like that. And sometimes there is also that little shiver in the legs. So if you could feel fear in any part of your body, which means you can feel happiness and joy also in any part of your body, right? So there may be happiness that you're feeling in, let's say, your hands want expansion and stuff like that. So mind is not something which is present here. It's not the brain. Brain is not the mind. Mind is not the brain, right? So that's the first one that I wanted to begin with. Our brain is the one that controls our bodily functions. It takes care of all our bodily functions, our memory, and all of that. The mind takes care of our behavior. And when we're talking mindset, it is what we're going to talk about today. It's the mindset, it's the behavior set, it's the feeling set, all of that that we need in order to be able to be entrepreneur. Yeah. So moving ahead. And everybody, please feel free to put down your questions, thoughts. I'm more than happy to address them as our time allows. So we'll include them as much as possible. All right. Now there are a few things that you would grab today, probably. I'm hoping to. Yeah. So it is why mindset matters in entrepreneurship, and how entrepreneurial thinking differs from conventional thinking, and what you will take away today. Right now, again, what you will take away today is more or less left to each one of you, depending on what story or what message kind of gets really recorded in your mind. But at the same time, there's something that I feel are primary basics that more or less everybody would be able to take away. So yeah, moving forward, what is entrepreneurial mindset is what we started our conversation with. The first most important part is turning ideas into reality. Yeah, because we are all full of ideas. We're human beings. We have creative capabilities. One of the skills we've been, bestowed with or gifted with naturally is creativity, is innovation. So ideas are with everyone. I'm sure each one of you at some point would have thought, oh, I could have do this business. I could have done this. I could have done that. It doesn't need to be a certain age. You don't need to be a business graduate to do that. At some point in time, you would have thought, oh, I think this is a thing that I could solve, right? Some problem that I could solve. So that is, ideas are there. We are sitting on ideas. We have millions of ideas in a day. We may give it heed or we may not give it heed, but that is how many ideas we have. Now, who is an entrepreneur and how does he differ from every person who has idea, he or she? I'm not trying to be gender specific here. So he or she, who, whatever ideas an entrepreneur is getting, how does it differ from a person who's not acting on it? Because the entrepreneur acts on it. They have the talent of converting an idea into reality. That is where they are differentiated. That is how they are different from everybody else, because they work on it, they act on it. Okay. Another thing that is very important in entrepreneurial mindset is it helps you overcome challenges. Like I said, it's raining outside right now in this side of the town. So let's say if you were walking on the road, right? Would you want to make a change in order to overcome a challenge at that point in time? Any change could be, and there could be 100 ideas of how you could overcome that challenge. Rain is the challenge. You do not have a transport with you at this point in time. That's a challenge. How do you convert it into an opportunity? Yeah. Now, there can be any number of ideas that can be coming to all of you. I could call up a friend and say, please pick me up. I could book a cab, but then you know how it is in rainy days, you don't find cabs, right? You don't find autos. Yeah. So that is another challenge, right? So that way, what could you do? Maybe you have a jacket in your bag. The jacket could get converted into something that could cover your head at least, right? Or your bag, whatever bag you're carrying, could just take care of your phone. So these small little innovative things that you come up with, this is what an entrepreneurial mindset is. Entrepreneurial mindset is looking to overcome challenges. It's not going to get stuck and say, oh, it's raining. I can't do anything. I'll just freeze here and get drenched. Right? That's not what an entrepreneurial mind would do. And I'm sure each one of you who's listening right now would definitely find a way to overcome that challenge that you're sitting with, which means it does not need any particular person with any kind of particular feature or trait to be an entrepreneur. You are already an entrepreneur, right? It's just a matter of putting that into action in whichever way it works for you. Now, another very important aspect is, um, like you say, beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder. Opportunity is also open to people who are ready to grab them and convert them into something, right? So, an entrepreneur or an entrepreneurial mindset is always seeking out opportunities. Always. It's just on a roll to seek out opportunities. Now, those opportunities don't have to look like typically money oriented opportunities. They could look like networking opportunities. They could look like growth opportunities. They could look like learning opportunities. They could also look like money opportunities. Nobody's saying you can't, right? So let's say if it's raining, again, I keep coming back to it because we're kind of walking with it throughout. What if on the go you immediately find a way and you sell some hot snacks to your friends? You've just done business right here. It doesn't have to be a fancy store, a fancy restaurant, right? At the end of the day, entrepreneurship is not about creating something which is fancy. It's about overcoming your own personal challenges wherever you're stuck, right? Now, another very important part is willingness to take calculated risk. Now, risk is, I think, a part of our lives. Very simple thing. I think with all the adversities that we're kind of seeing with all lately that are happening with the plane crash and other kind of things that have been happening, helicopter crashes happen, plane crashes happen. There are other landslides that have happened with stuff happening in Kashmir. There is risk everywhere. There's equal risk sitting at home as well, right? Now, risk is always there. How do we mitigate the risk to the extent we can? And how do we go over that risk and be able to move beyond that? Because I do not feel that there's any time when we'll be risk free, and we cannot wait for that situation to happen when we are risk free, because there's no such situation called risk free. There's always some kind of risk. Let's say you make an investment in some kind of financial product. Even though the company or the person who's suggesting that to you is telling you it's 100% safe, there may still be some risk attached to it, right? Like when we say fixed deposit is a very safe investment, yeah. But if a bank dissolves, they do not pay you more than a lakh or two, right? Now there is risk involved. It is a safe investment, but there's a risk, right? So like that, there are risks to everything in our lives, absolutely everything in our lives. So which means how does an entrepreneurial mindset differ in this situation? Is that they take calculated risk. Yeah, they take calculated risk, which means, let's say if it's the FT situation, instead of putting, let's say, 50 lakhs in one FT, breaking it up into few banks and few places in smaller amounts, so that if it's not possible that all banks will dissolve at the same time, right? Probably one or two. Maybe you're at a loss of one or two banks if you put your FD in such places. But if you put it in a few places, and if one of them was to go away, maybe a 5 to 10% of your portfolio will go down. The rest is still with you, right? So that is how you mitigate risk. That's a very small example on a day-to-day life. To look at risk is everywhere. How do we minimize it? How do we mitigate it? How do we calculate it enough for us to be in a position where we can go ahead? It's not a roadblocker. It shouldn't stop us from any further steps to come, right? So that's the idea of an entrepreneurial mindset, which is turning ideas into reality, a way of thinking that enables you to overcome challenges, constantly seeking opportunities. And this, if you see, all of this involves courage, a lot of courage, right? Humongous amount of courage, but it comes, and again, all of the courage is not going to come to you in one day or one step. It's a step-by-step process. You take one step, you will feel better than the previous one, and then you take the next one, you'll feel better than that previous one. And interestingly, I keep feeling like this to ask in this sense that, who's the first person who's converted an idea into reality? Any person who's converted an idea into reality, or who may have all of these. And I think this person you may not be able to think in the most obvious form, but I want to kind of intrigue you into a point where you're able to see it from another perspective as well. So there's definitely one person who's done this, and that's the reason why you are here today, right? That is your parents, your mother. You were an idea before you became a reality, right? She's taken that risk. So which means she's as entrepreneurial as you desire to be today. So and it goes even for your father for that matter. I do not mean to say just your mother, but at the same time, mothers carry the baby, so just being a little partial. So what I'm trying to remind you over here is, it's just, I think, a lot of courage carried with a certain way of thinking, which is exactly what entrepreneurial mindset is about. Okay, let me see. Okay, yeah. Now, we will also look at what are the other aspects of key traits of entrepreneurial thinkers. Now, what happens is, a lot of times, we tend to get derailed by a lot of things people tell us. Let's say you told someone, I want to set up a business, and you talk to a friend who's probably not as excited about what your thought is, not because they're jealous of you or anything, just because we may not be able to comprehend what you're thinking, right? It's not necessary that everybody is able to comprehend everything that you're saying at all points of time. Even people who love you the most, right? They may not be able to understand. So while they say you cannot, but you inside of yourself, that it's okay if they do not understand this at this point. I can do this and I will move forward with it, right? Now, resilience, constantly showing up is a very, very important aspect. It's more like, there's a story, right, where a woman died when she was pregnant because they had a hill. There's a movie also which is made on this, right? Because they had to cross the hill to get to the hospital. And she died because they could not. Now, how was this man able to build a road cutting a hill? Because he was consistent, because he was resilient, he was consistent, he did not give up. His wife had already died. He knew she could not come back, but he knew that other people should not go through this ever again. So he did this day in and day out, so that they would be rode through the hill. And in order for him to do that, it could not be like this, that 5 days he went there and he said, oh, nothing is happening to this. Well, I'm not going to go, right? And even if you look at rocks, and when you go to, any places where rivers are there, the way rocks get broken is not the one splash of water. No, it needs that constant flow of water, and, rocks takes shape. The way gets made. That is how even water flows out from the Himalayas and down to the oceans, right? The same way, so that's what we're talking of resilience. Resilience is very important for something to be successful, for something to function well. Another is a problem solving ability. I think the most important part of being an entrepreneur is that you're solving some problem. There is some problem solving. If you see the boom of laundry stores these days, what problem are they solving? They're solving a busy life problem of taking away the load of washing, cleaning, folding your laundry, ironing the laundry, and keeping it ready for you in one lot. They are solving a problem. It will look like a very mundane task, but they are actually solving a problem of a normal human being today that they may be having at this point in their life, right? And they are booming. They're booming everywhere. So if you see, that is what a business does. That is what an entrepreneur does. They solve a problem. Yeah, they solve some problem. Anything it could be. Even if you're a competitor to an already existing business, it doesn't have to be a different business. It could be a similar business, but you will be solving a problem within that capacity. Within that, even in the laundry, let's say your detergent is better than the others. Maybe somebody's detergent is more chemical oriented. Maybe your detergent could be more plant-based, or more natural, free from chemicals. That itself could get your business, right? Any small innovation in the business, problem solving doesn't have to look like a humongous problem to be solved. It could look like a very tiny little thing to be done. And of course, you're welcome to do bigger things as well. Now, curiosity is very important. Why I would say that is because, again, like I said, all of us have a lot of ideas for business also, for innovation also. When we are curious to know is which idea is going to be helpful or which one is not going to be helpful, or which idea can I pursue and will that really make a change. Another curiosity is that there is something called target audience, which I'm sure you would be studying in your business related studies, which is the audience who's your prospective buyer, who's going to buy from you. We need to be curious as to what is the problem that they are facing, because they can only solve a problem that they are having if you have to sell to them, right? We can't solve a problem that we are having and sell to them. Then we can sell to somebody who we have the place that we are at, let's say studying in college, ABC problems going on, right? Something like that. Now, agility is very important. Quick movements, right? Very importantly, it can't be like, okay, I came up with a device or I came up with an idea. Now, this idea has to succeed. The beauty of entrepreneurship, the amount of feedback you will get and the amount of changes that will come around on this journey, they may not necessarily change your idea. They may change how you approach your idea. And that is the agility that you can constantly work with, which means that, any kind of changes, any kind of things, feedback you're getting, any kind of, let's say, again, the laundry store opened up and you realize people's clothes are tearing much faster than they should have, then you change something there, right? So agility means every time constantly learning, constantly moving, constantly changing stuff, right? And again, growth mindset pretty much points at that, which means that if you're in any way, doing any kind of, and again, when I'm talking about entrepreneurial skills, it's not necessarily they have to be applied to business. Like I said, they can be applied in life. They can be applied in relationships. They can be applied in your jobs if you are in any, or if you're seeking any. It can also be applied in your business for sure, right? It can be applied in any and every aspect of your life, absolutely every. Now, growth mindset, I'm sure you've heard this word more than a million times already, constantly in every place that you can, because it's a very buzzword these days. So you already understand. I will just repeat it for you. Somebody who's not willing to stay in a particular place and is willing to grow, willing to learn and grow, learn and grow, learn and grow, learn and grow. And it's not going to be a singular cycle. It is going to happen again and again and again and again, right? Like we discussed earlier, risk tolerance. There is already some amount of risk tolerance that we have, but when we're looking at a more entrepreneurial mindset, we are looking at a greater risk tolerance. Of course, a calculated and mitigated one. Network. Now, network is a word which is being used, is more like hopping onto LinkedIn, connecting with few people, you network, done, sorted. Or go to some meetings and meet some people, say, hi, networking is done. Not really, right? It's very important to, if you will see, when you're doing this way, in the push strategy of networking, you don't really connect with anyone. You would just go there, nod head, shake hands, hello, hi, everything, and you're back. And you feel like you've not met anyone really. You have cards with you, you maybe have some visiting cards, but have you really met someone? That's the question that you're left with. And I think that goes for LinkedIn or any other, you know, business networking or professional networking platform as well. We connected to a lot of people. Do we really know them? Right? Because network, end of the day, is a peer group. What am I saying? What do I mean when I say peer group? Peer group is the set of people who are going to help you move forward. They may not be people invested in your work or your business or your stuff. These are people who are going to give you a push in one way or the other. Why? Maybe they are doing something great that you're inspired by, right? Maybe when you take your business idea to them or your anything that you're solving right now, maybe an umbrella that doesn't turn, right? A lot of umbrellas turn. So maybe an umbrella that doesn't turn, or maybe an umbrella that's a little bit more sturdy, maybe an umbrella that has some cover which can get your phone inside. I don't know. I'm coming up with some ideas, right? I'm talking to. So when that person gives you a little push, these are people who you need, or people also who give you a bit of a reality check, right? Sometimes it may be a very stupid idea, and I don't mean to call it stupid in the sense of stupid, but if a small change is made in that same idea, it becomes an intelligent idea, right? There's no idea which is stupid. Please understand, this was just my connotation to help you understand that a same thing with a minor tweak can just become intelligent, right? It's not about branding anything or judging anything. It's only about knowing that you may have an idea, and this idea may just need somebody's support or feedback or guidance or mentoring in order for it to become a brilliant idea that can actually change lives, including yours, right? So networking does not mean just randomly going into people. Networking actually means finding a right peer group who could support you through this journey of entrepreneurship. Of course, also journey of life, right? Having the right friends. That's always what we've told, right? It's pretty much similar in the professional sense. Yeah. So anything that converts you into I can. This is, typically what an entrepreneur mindset can, that they, whatever number of challenges there may be, I can. If you see people who climb the Mount Everest, you've seen the amount of determination that they have in them, despite the climate, despite food issues, despite breathing the air, oxygen levels, despite health issues. They climb. There are people who don't have limbs have climbed. There are people who are sick have climbed. There are people who are old have climbed. There are children who have climbed. So that is an entrepreneurial mindset, where you know this is my goal and I'm going to achieve my goal. It's not by hook or by crook. It's by the dedication and the the amount of investment, emotional, mental, physical investment you have into it, right? Moving on from here. Now, of course, we talked about growth mindset. You know it already. I'm just repeating it for you. Okay. A fixed mindset will be like, okay, I don't want a challenge. I'll just stand in rain and get drenched. It will stop at some point in time, right? So that's where a fixed mindset would be, right? They would avoid failure. Now, failure, is it's interesting that in the world there's a word called failure. The word called failure is more, way more. It has way more weightage than it should have, because we are all failing every day. Yeah, small stuff, maybe writing an email. We didn't write it the best way possible. There are times when you were thinking, oh, I should have said this, it would be better. I should have written this, it would be better. I should have done that, it would be better, right? So we are all facing these emotions every day. And failure is just a feeling, it's not a literal meaning. Why? Because failure is very relative, very, very relative. Somebody having an MBA degree, unable to get a job, may feel they are a failure. Somebody not having an MBA degree, but able to get some job, whichever works for them, may also think they're a failure because they did not graduate from a big college or a big degree. Another person who started a business probably at an early age may think they're a failure because they've not studied through, or they've not gone through a typical cycle. So the failure is very relative. Their failure doesn't have a single meaning. Plus, failure doesn't have a single definition at all. So anybody can classify anything into a failure. The neighbor doesn't like how you live your life, they can call you a failure. You can call them too, right? It's just that, it's exactly that. And that is why failure in the head will create a fixed mindset. Why? Because when you do not want to be criticized, you do not want to fail, then you won't take your chances. Yeah. And entrepreneurship is all about taking your chances. Doesn't matter you fail, because it's perceived failure, right? Why? We'll come to that. Now, what happens in entrepreneurial and a growth mindset? You embrace challenges, any challenges that there are. Instead of standing in the rain, I'm anyway getting drenched, I'll just walk. Right? Or maybe I can just take a lift if it's safe to do that, of course. Please follow your judgment, right? Yeah. So, in any such thing, right? Or maybe I don't know. There'd be so many possibilities. Maybe find a little bit of shelter for the time being. What I'm trying to remind you is that it may look very tiny, whatever I'm saying right now in terms of handling the rain, because you're doing it on an everyday basis in your life, specifically these days, rainy season, right? Embracing these challenges is very important, and moving beyond them, moving beyond the challenges. Now, not getting stuck at the challenge and saying, oh, this is it. That's the end of the situation. It's not, because there's something to do beyond this. The same way, what people call failure are just mistakes we need to learn from. Just mistakes we need to learn from, right? When a child starts walking, blind, like 1 year, 1.5 years, that age, when they start walking, they fall umpteen number of times. They don't call themselves a failure. If they did that, they would never walk. None of us would be walking if we did that. So you already know how to overcome challenges. It's in your body, it's in your biology. You know how to overcome challenges, right? Because you're walking today. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is that if let's say, there's this usually somebody would say, oh, your child is not speaking till this age, well, then there's a failure. It's not a failure. They'll speak eventually. Or let's say they're not walking till this age, they are a failure, but they will eventually. Or they did. You look back at any challenges that you may have, which you've heard stories of course, from your family and your parents, that you couldn't do this when you were smaller, you couldn't do this. But do you see that? Do you do that today? Yes, you do. You do very much. So it's exactly an example of how you've already overcome something that was perceived as failure because it wasn't a failure. You were just trying to the point you were mastered in it. Yeah. I'll give you an example. I have just about 2 weeks back started learning swimming. People of my age stuff would always would call me a failure. Of course, why? Because I didn't know swimming before this. I just started learning swimming. Yeah, and yesterday was the first time when I floated. I've been trying this for 2 weeks. I have not been able to float. But if somebody judgmental was there with me or my head was full of my self criticism, I would call myself a failure. Oh, in 2 weeks you couldn't get up and float. I couldn't, but I did it yesterday, and I was so happy. I was jumping around in the pool saying, "Oh, I finally overcame this!" Right? And I'm just trying to remind you that they can look so tiny, but the growth mindset will tell you to keep moving forward, overcome what's it, or what you've not been able to do doesn't define you. That's it, right? And you can do whatever you put your mind to or heart to. Now, like we discussed, how entrepreneurs think differently is they see opportunities where we see problems, right? Right. And if you actually see, if you hear any entrepreneurs, I again mean business people or people who've done innovation in their workspace, even as employment, you will always find they had a situation where they were stuck up or they saw someone stuck up. That is how they have created what they've created. So what happened? They actually saw a problem and they figured out a way to solve that problem. And that is how they became entrepreneurs. Because that's the thing that pushes them to be entrepreneurs and solve that problem. Like we said, it was in the beginning, they are problem solvers. Now, another thing is focusing on solutions, not obstacles. Now, when you start your entrepreneurial journey, it's not going to be a smooth ride. It's not. One day, one problem, next day, next problem, third day, third problem. One day you'll say, oh, I solved this problem. Now it's a good ride. It's not. Second day, the other problem. Then you think, okay, it's a good ride. It's not. Again, the third day, the same thing. And then you'll be sitting on different problems every day. What would happen is, if you meet again, if you talk to more entrepreneurs, I'm sure you guys have, so many people have come as guests over here. They become masters at handling problems. Very good at handling problems because they know every day I go, I'll have some problem to deal with. I'll have some problem to solve. So they, instead of dwelling on the problem and being, letting the energy get consumed in that, they would rather focus their time and energy on solutions. So solution oriented rather than problem oriented, right? Now also future driven, not past reliant. Now a past data, like I will give an example. I think at the age of 13, 14, I did my first business with my mother. Very simple business. We would go to a wholesaler, buy some handbags and some bags for children, and come back here in our wherever we were staying, come and sell that to other people and make some money out of the whole process. Okay. It went well actually, but it wasn't sustainable because the amount of travel and stuff that we were doing and storage we needed was not working. Now, does this entire experience should have taught me these things don't work. Businesses don't work. Home businesses don't work. Or these kind of businesses don't work. But if I was to be stuck at that, I wouldn't have been able to innovate in my jobs or in my business at the same time. Would not have been able to. So what I'm trying to also remind you over here is a 13-year-old me could believe that businesses don't work or home businesses don't work or something like this does not work. But I allowed that 13-year-old to learn the lesson that she had to learn from those situations. And today I've become a person who is able to get over any challenges that come up in my business as well. Right? I'm not saying I've come over all the challenges so far. There are things that I get upset about and then take my time to get over the upset and then get on to the work. So it's what I'm trying to remind you is not looking in the past and deciding what your future will look like. Looking in the past and learning the lessons and still looking at the future and saying, okay, I've learned my lesson and I go with the lesson rather than the situation that I was caught up in, right? Now, let's say today, if you're feeling that, I do not have these kind of entrepreneurial capacities and stuff, we all can develop. Like I said, we all have it inside us. It's a matter of recognizing it and developing it, right? Something very, very important is self-awareness and care. Why am I beginning with this? It'll be like, oh, this has nothing to do with business, right? It should be ideas, it should be strategy. No, it's not. I mean, from where I see it, it's not. Why? Because if you are the one who's suffering in any particular way, you can't be running your business fully because you're not able to, let's say if your health is not at the best point, how far will you go on with it? You need to first take care of your health. You need to first take care of mental state. You need to first take care of your emotional state. Now, these can happen parallelly as well. But at the same time, I would say prioritizing yourself. Now, I'll give you an example in this way. Let's say you are in a situation where there's a thief in front of you, and you know this person is a thief, and you have to get out of the situation, right? What will help you at that time? You being aware of what all you are carrying in your bag or pockets, you being aware of what all areas or stuff is accessible for you, let's say a police station or anything like that is accessible to you. What else will help? The other thing is, where are you at? Which means, let's say you see the thief and start crying. Will that help in that situation? No. You start shouting, will that help in the situation? Yes. Right? Or you start practically taking up a physical fight with the thief. It may help, may not help. I cannot be sure about it, right? It's a very situational thing. Why I'm trying to bring your attention to this place is, wherever your nervous system is at, wherever your body is at, wherever your mental state is at, is going to decide what will be the outcome of that situation. Right? The thief does not have the power to decide what will happen with your situation. That person has come to steal. Does not mean you get stolen from. You understand what I'm saying? He has come with an intention. He or she has come with an intention. You don't necessarily have to fall into his or her situation. What will decide you come out of it is your awareness of yourself. Your awareness of yourself, your awareness of your surroundings. Same goes for your business, same goes for your job, same goes for everything in your life. That wherever you are at, which means, now how will I help? Has there been a situation where you've gone into a room and you felt something was really awkward and you didn't want to be in that room? At least once in your life, right? Where you're like, okay, this place doesn't feel right, I need to go out of here. It just doesn't have to be a room, it could be a lane, it could be like a gully, it could be like a house, it could be like an office, it could be anything. You've gone into a place, you're like, okay, this place doesn't feel right for me, I need to go from here. And there's also been an opposite situation where you go to a place like, oh my god, this is such a welcoming place, right? What is happening? What is happening is your neural pathways, your nervous system is reading the information in advance before your mind can start processing data. Okay? Your body is already reading signs of safety. Your body is already reading signs that should you stay here or should you not. So our bodies are very intelligent, very, very intelligent. If we genuinely tune into our bodies, take a couple of deep breaths in any situation we are in, couple or more, dependent on how much time you take to regulate. You may not have so much with the team, but then in a different situation you may have, right? So I'm just talking about self-regulation here. The more grounded you are in your body, it will tell you to stay, to leave, to take help, to do this, to do that, to do that. It is very intuitive. Our bodies are very, very intuitive. Our mental work only happens after the body's already processed all the information. So the first part to kind of process and take into account is our bodies, because mind can tell us 100 things. Our minds, there's a reason why mind is called monkey mind. Okay, mind's job is to keep us safe. Safe isn't always outside our comfort zone. Safe can look like many things. Safe can look like a friend has invited you to a party or let's say a movie, and your mind can tell you, no, 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 don't go. You can have an accident outside, or you lose money, you'll have to fight with a friend. Your mind can tell you so many things. So mind, what is the mind trying to tell you? Stay in your bed, stay safe, no need to go anywhere. Are you ready really expanding yourself? Are you living your best life by doing that? No. So the mind isn't exactly always the right. That's why I said mindset is a set of a lot of other things. Our body set, a heart set, and all of that, right? While we may call it mindset, but it's a result of so many other things. So self-awareness is a very, very important thing. The other thing, like I said, is take initiative, talk to people, understand what problems and challenges are going on, if this is what you're looking to do in your lives. Ask about it. So let's say I do not like the shape of this cup. It's uncomfortable. Sorry, I can't do this. I think is not visible, right? How do I change this? How do I make it more accessible? How do I make it only if, let's say with the handle, only one finger is going in. But I don't want that. I need more comfort. I need more strength and the grip. So how many fingers should be able to fit in the handle appropriately? That is something that you look at. And then maybe with someone you work it out and you make a model and then give this model to someone else and let them also research, understand, and all of that. So initiative is so important as part of this. Again, same point, learn from feedback, because that is what's going to give you the right reality check of where your idea or product or proposition is at. Again, adapt, constantly keep changing, keep coming to a point where you feel, okay, now I think this prototype that I have is reached a point which is acceptable or which is more going to be sellable or whatever, right? I'm saying again this from the business concept. It's equally applicable in our lives. Building a support network, like I said, a good peer group who can hold you through your personal and professional challenges and changes, very, very important. And that's why there's more of a friendship picture than a business handshake, because you need people who don't need to just come and say hi to you and go away. You need people who can be there with you in your tough situations as well. And the same goes for you when you can be in tough situations for others. Now, you may think, why is there a thing called purpose here? Now, to give you an example, everybody knows Mr. Ratan Tata, I'm sure, right? He passed away recently. He had brought a product called Nano. Again, I'm sure everybody knows. Now, where did that Nano come from? He already had flourishing businesses. He didn't need to launch another car. India had enough cars, and we didn't need to launch a small car and suffer losses and stuff. He came from an idea because he saw a family going on a two-wheeler motorcycle, and he realized that a big family is trying to fit in a two-seater capacity, and he wanted to give them more shelter within the same budget or a little above what they would spend for a two-wheeler, right? And that is how Nano was birthed. Now, why am I bringing this purpose here? Everything in business or entrepreneurship is always driven from service. Outcome is money, but it's driven from service. It's driven from a purpose to solve a problem. You could always be aiming at saying, yeah, want to be a business person. I want to launch something because I want to earn money. Yes, perfectly fine. But is there a purpose to it? Is there a service that you're offering? Is there a service orientation inside? Because any brands, even you look at that you consume in your life, if there's no service, there's very little of likelihood that you will return to them. We all human beings, we're emotional beings. We like when we are served. We like when we are taken care of. We like when our needs are met. So purpose is very important. The Nano may not be a success, nano success in the worldly terms. Nano may not look like the best car on the planet, but at least it has solved a problem for some people. It has given some people the transport they definitely needed and they were desperately desiring. And that is a purpose that was good enough for Mr. Tata to go on with. And again, you do not need to have big pockets in order to have a purpose. Even with smaller pockets, this is possible. Right? It's all about how you carry it forward, how you bring it into fruition, how you bring it into the reality. Okay? So purpose is very important from entrepreneurial mindset. Money making, it comes with it. Money is coming. No money is not going anywhere.
Byproduct, and again, as you mentioned, the old example of raining, even that can solve the same purpose, that you can avoid getting drenched in the rain.
Absolutely. The whole family, right? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, I've already like some inspiration here. This is just not even a drop in the ocean. There are tons and tons and tons of people to look at. Mr. Ratan Tata, of course, everybody knows, so I will not be there. Mr. Steve Jobs, everybody knows. Kiran Mazumdar, also we know. She's the founder of the organization in India, and she's grown it to such levels. The research wing is there, products wing is there, and it's a huge organization. Shraddha Sharma is the founder of Your Story, in case you do not know. She's also, and if you see all of these people, everybody's innovated in one way or the other. They may have innovated the same existing product, right? let's say they were all these, like even in the case of Shraddha Sharma, they were all reporting websites, tons of reporting websites. Your story is only focused on startups. That's a different niche he started. It's not like websites didn't exist. It's not like startups are not getting coverage anywhere. No. It's just a niche that she picked up, which in the same category, just another product that she came up with. So like that, everybody has their own stories over here, right? When Steve Jobs also started making this computer, there was already another computer present. You know, Apple computer is not the first computer of the world, but he made something which then did well for itself. Now, again, you will go back and look at this purpose, resilience, innovation, risk taking are some things you will find in all of them. And everybody has that you will meet more entrepreneurs in life. Now, entrepreneurial mindset at work would look like pretty much repeating ourselves right now. But this is more on an employment perspective. When you're solving a problem in an innovative way, when you're finding an opportunity instead of constantly finding gaps, you know, when you can look at a gap as an opportunity, right? Because that would happen in employment where you see some gap is happening in the current structure and you start to find an opportunity for change or growth over there. Not just for yourself, but for the organization as well, right? At the same time, initiative taking within the job role. Very important. Let's say if I'm doing a certain function, how do I come up with something new which will benefit me and the organization, right? Now, I will again, like the rain example, there something that you are dealing with on a daily basis, which is a problem for you? And how can you come up with 3 entrepreneurial solutions which will solve it? So again, because we do not have an interactive space and time at this point in time, I will leave it for you to discuss this with your roommates and friends. It will probably help you move through. Now, there are a few challenges that we discussed about already, which could be challenges in adopting the mindset, which is fear of failure, lack of resources, social and peer pressure, risk aversion. All of this, we've talked about. This is just kind of revisiting them. At the same time, also remembering the fact that these cannot stop you. The idea of entrepreneurship is to move beyond them. There will be people who will call you a failure. There will be people who will tell you lots of stuff. There will be lack of resources. Yes, you will not have the best of money, best of resource, best of everything at all times. You will have it. Probably not at all times, right? The same way for failure. If you have fear of failure, it may be even more difficult to go beyond. You know, like they say, which one is easy swimming, upstream, downstream? It's pretty much like that. Yeah, when you're swimming upstream, it's more challenging because you're constantly fearing. Whereas when you're going downstream, you're allowing the stream to support you in your progress. Yeah. So risk aversion, yes, risk aversion to a certain point can always be done, but completely cannot be. So we have to take risk and move beyond that point. Yeah, overcoming mindset barriers. We've already again spoken about it. Changing failure perspective to feedback, leading to redirection. Focusing on what you can control because there are tons of things we can't control. So we'd rather take our energy and focus to where we can control. Building resilient habits. Atomic Habits is a book which may be good to read for this.
James Clear.
Yeah, and habits. We are a sum of our habits. Human beings are sum of our habits. Okay, and if you want a better life, we need to change our habits. That's a simple understanding. So if we need to be entrepreneurial, our exposure to our habits, our behavior, our movement towards daily life has to be more towards what our goals are. Right? So resilient habits for sure. If you have to lose certain amount of weight, you cannot be working out or eating healthy for 5 days and say that's what it is. I will not do that because you've not achieved your most healthy version, right? So it's that way. In Indian context, we have great scope right now. India is booming in terms of startups and digital economy. India is also doing very well in the international arena in terms of innovation and startups and everything. Now, again, our country is today doing a lot of initiatives on sustainability and inclusivity, which is relatively new for us than the West. So since it's a newer wave, there's huge amount of scope in that. Also, we've had a lot of scams and frauds we've seen in the entrepreneurial world. So there's obviously a lot of need for ethical and responsible entrepreneurs. Right peer group, we are more and more as we're moving towards these changes, we're also seeing peer groups emerge. Like a lot of business mentoring is emerging. There are a lot of boot camps that happen for entrepreneurs for growth. Please remember the most important thing that will carry you through life, and everything else will be self-care and regulation. Your regulation of yourself and your care of yourself. Because your business only comes second. You come first, right? Yeah, again, same. This is the last part. So key takeaways is repeating myself. Mindset is going to mindset, and when I say mindset, I'm also talking about body set and heart set, right? Combination of mind, heart, and body is shapes your future, shapes your present, and your present becomes your future. Now, consistency, resilience, and curiosity opens doors. Embracing failures, because it's not failures, they're just stepping stone to success, right? Entrepreneurship is a way of thinking, it's not a job title. That's why I said that it applies to entrepreneurship applies to everything in your life, not just your work. And you are at the core, not the idea. Please remember that you are the one at the core. So if you forget yourself for the idea, then that's not entrepreneurship. Yeah. So I think we are done.
All right. So thank you so much for that, Ms. Divya. I must say that there are a lot of things which you mentioned in such simple language, I would say. One thing which I really appreciate, or I would say it is a different perspective to see thing, that was about network. Because these days everybody say I have 1,000 friends on my FB, there are 2,000 friends on my Insta. But the way you put it across that it's not those connections or this social connects which is there with you. Network is always where someone is there to push you and say let's go, we'll do it something bigger and a better tomorrow, right? So that's really nice. So we'll quickly take up few of the questions with regard to time. We are a little short on that, probably we might not take all of them, but probably I'll read it out for few questions for you, probably we can take up those questions, right? So the first question goes something like, how do we manage time between the ideation as well as the execution?
I think there's nothing to manage time if you really honor what your body is driving you towards and not allow your mind to really get in the way. Then there's nothing called time management, because you will follow what you're being called to do, and that's always the best thing to do. Because when we get caught up in the idea of time management, we are actually trying to really manage our mind than the time, really, you know, because there's
Great.
so many things distracting us. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. And how do you think formal education helps or hinders the entrepreneurship?
I don't think it does. It hinders in any way. It's just a stepping stone. You learn better, you network better, you get to, like right now, like as I see, the institution is allowing you to meet so many people and learn from them. So it also gives you a platform and exposure. You don't have to be a school dropout in order for you to have a successful business. You could still do it while you've had your formal education.
These days, Gen Z always feels if I'm a school dropout, probably I would make really very big something. But that's not the fact, anyways.
Mm.
So the next question goes something like, how would you define success in corporate entrepreneurship?
Well, I think I would ask you back the same question. How would you define it? You know why? Because there's no one definition of success, really.
True.
Everybody's definition of success is very different. Yeah. So I would let you define your definition of success. But for me, what I would call success is if I have peace in my heart and I have ideas executed in my, from a mental framework, and my body is calm, that would be success for me. It doesn't have to look like $1 billion in a business idea. Yeah.
All right, great. So the next question says, is passion alone enough to start a business?
I would say to a certain point.
I would add it like with a purpose would surely make a smart business to go forward for.
Yes. Because if you have this purpose in mind, it will keep you going.
Going.
Yeah. With
But
passion,
that they say no, the why is important. I mean, why are you doing that?
yeah, I mean, why? Again, if it's money, it will die out.
True.
If it's really that problem that you're solving and you're very attached to solving that problem, then it will sustain itself. Yes.
True. So we'll take up just last couple of questions very quickly. What barriers exist in the corporate world that limits the innovation?
Ah, quite a few, I would say. Yes, but in larger sense, I think the idea of not having leaders but more followers, that's the primary idea. If everybody's working with a leadership mindset, then there's really no barrier to innovation. I think that's the first one. Everything else can be sorted out after.
Very true. And last question for tonight. How does teamwork shape entrepreneurial outcomes in student projects? This is very, very student centric.
So could you repeat that for me, please?
Okay, how does teamwork shape an entrepreneurial outcomes in the student projects?
I think again going back to the mindset, then when you're working towards a singular goal, because that's what teamwork is all about.
All about, yeah.
And entrepreneurial outputs or outcomes will, if they are similar or same or similar for everybody, and they have that thing coming out of it, then teamwork should work. If everybody has different goals out of the same thing, then probably it may not work.
Very true. All right, ma'am. So thank you so much once again for sharing your insights. And I must say that the energy and the wisdom you live with is really amazing. So thank you so much once again. And on behalf of the entire GIBS Business School community, I would extend my heartfelt gratitude for joining us, taking time. I understand a lot of things lined up, but still you made it for all of us. Thank you so much for joining in. And since you're in Bangalore, I would look forward inviting you personally to the campus. Probably we would love to learn a lot of more things from you in person. So I would certainly ask my team or probably Neetu to connect you once again, and if we can associate in some or the other way possible. And we are keen to learn a lot of things from your end.
So thank you, absolutely, and it works likewise. I've been very inspired to, talk to students, because I think that's the formation time. It's really like the time laying foundation for life.
True.
And very
So
grateful for each and everybody. And
thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Big thank you to all the attendees, our students, faculties, and the members for making this session so engaging and meaningful. So before we close this session, a small announcement that don't forget to follow GIBS Business School and IRE Talks on all social media channels. The recording of this session will also be uploaded soon on the YouTube channel. So in case if you have missed out on anything, you can certainly look forward. And participants will be receiving the e-certificates very, very shortly via email. So before we close up, in case if you would love to understand more on understanding how the life goes on the spirituality in the business, I'm sure ma'am is very, very active on social media. Probably you can look forward her TED Talk, which is available on YouTube as well. And you'll learn a lot of things, I'm sure of it. So let's stay in touch and let's stay in connect. Thank you so much, Divya ma'am, once again for joining us. And thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you, ma'am. Have a great day ahead. Thank you. Please take care of yourself.